From the News Channel 5 Network, this is MorningLine.
Good morning, everyone. Nick Barris here. Hope you had a good weekend. It's MorningLine. It is Monday, and we're going to get the phone number up in a minute if you want to join in the conversation to talk about today. What are we going to talk about? What are we going to? Pets, animals, your animal care. We're going to get into all of that. Here we come. We're upon the holiday season, and you're thinking of getting that puppy for a friend, aren't you? I know. What a cool gift that is right there. Or, you know, your kids want the puppy, and you get it in Christmas morning. You know, all of a sudden that box is moving, and the lid pops up, and there's the puppy. It is the greatest thing. What better gift can there be than a little animal? To talk more about this morning with me is the lovely and talented veterinarian Allison Fields, and I love just rolling out the red carpet with her on one of her favorite subjects.
Thank you. What better gift, you ask? I don't know. A stuffed puppy.
A stuffed? Yeah, but stuffed puppies can't lick you. You can't, you know,
we
chase
talk about
them
this every year.
I have to bring it up
unless you're a parent and are buying that puppy, kitten, iguana, whatever for your kids. Do not give puppies, kittens, iguanas, goldfish as pets.
And
as
if you
gifts.
do, as gifts to anyone.
Right. No.
And, I mean,
not unless you're the parent or unless you have spoken to the parent very closely. Not in passing back in August. Oh, I think the kids might like a puppy. And they said, oh, yeah, they probably would. That didn't mean get my kids a puppy. That meant, yeah, they probably would, but I'm not going there. But you don't know. So unless you've spoken to them, there's nothing worse than a puppy or a kitten or an iguana or a goldfish or a hamster coming in for Christmas, and it's all really nice and good, and the home is not prepared for it. The parents, who are the ones that are going to be taking care of it?
We all know that.
We all know that.
Yeah.
It ends up at the shelter. Or, you know, the toilet bowl for the goldfish. Or, you know, speaking of that, have you read the news about goldfish being released into the wild? There's a whole lake, I can't remember if it was in Colorado or Michigan or somewhere, that somebody dumped out, Boulder, Colorado. They had dumped out their goldfish because apparently they didn't want any more.
And they're like
goldfish.
Cute. Big goldfish.
Big goldfish. Because, you know, they grow to, they're limited by the size of their enclosure.
That's what I've always heard.
Right. And so they're eating and killing indigenous species, and they're an invasive species, and they're taking over this lake.
I didn't know that. Now, goldfish
Don't do that.
Is that different than koi or some of these other ones?
You know, I didn't read the article completely.
Okay.
I think that goldfish are pretty much baby koi.
Okay.
There might be a little bit of a genus.
But then they end up acting like carp or something like that, where they just take over and they get huge.
Taking
over. I
over.
wonder if you could eat a goldfish. I mean, I know people have swallowed goldfish, but I mean, if you caught a big one.
Well, you could fillet it.
Fillet it or something.
Fry it up like catfish.
But you hear about people releasing.
Don't do it.
In the past, those little mini gators.
Right.
One of my favorite movies all time was Lake Placid.
I never saw that.
Where they released the gators and they got huge and they'd start attacking people. I don't think it gets to that extent.
Well, you know, that started in the Everglades. A lot of people, when they're Burmese pythons and stuff, they were releasing them. But then what really happened was Hurricane Andrew, I think it was, I don't know, 20 years ago-ish, came through and wiped out Miami and everything. And all of these pet stores got their cages broken and everything broken, and we had a huge release of non-indigenous species into the Everglades. And so there are like python hunts now in the Everglades. Who knew?
Yeah, because they get huge.
Well, and it's a perfect environment for breeding, and so there's baby pythons, and they're killing all of the indigenous species. Yeah. So don't release things that aren't, unless they're where they need to come from.
Now, do you see some new pets coming in after the Christmas holiday or New Year's? You know, just with people who've bought them and they're bringing them in to get the shots.
Absolutely, and inevitably we have usually one puppy that stays with us from December 22nd until Christmas Eve for Santa. Because, you know, Santa can't keep all these puppies in his bag. So sometimes Santa drops them off at the vet clinic so that they can stay with us, so that then he can just swing back by Christmas Eve and drop them at the right house.
That's pretty cool.
Which is fun. It's nice being a Santa helper.
All right, well, we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. You want to talk about looking into finding the right type of pet if you're thinking of getting one. And as she said, put a lot of thought into it before you do it. It was interesting, too. This time of year, there's a lot of fun runs. I did the turkey trot on Thanksgiving in Mount Juliet, where a lot of people run with their dogs.
Right.
And I took Betty, our pug, on the 5K.
How'd Betty do?
It was awesome because she took off and was leading the pack for the first mile.
Right.
Then she slowed down, and I carried her the rest of the way.
Right.
Which I suspect. I wasn't going to drag her.
Just for the record, pugs are not endurance animals.
No, but boy, and she could tell it got to her when she was taken down the stretch by a little wiener dog, which really, wiener dog's going to take the pug every time on the distance run. Yeah, and you can tell
anything's going to take the pug, except for the Old English Bulldog.
Yeah, you're.
And the Pekingese.
She had fun. Now, Rocky couldn't have handled it. The Beagle Juice could have gone with me, but he would have been freaked out by the crowd. But a lot of people go running with their dogs.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fun. I don't know. But I didn't drag them along. Typically, when people run, what are the best dogs for jogging? I see a lot of people sometimes that jog their companions on trails.
Dogs.
So like
not pugs.
Yeah, no. I bet like a border collie or something.
Border collies are great. Honestly, I think the two best running dogs are Weimaraners and Dalmatians. I think those dogs need a ton of energy. They're best owned by single 20-ish, 30-ish guys who like to run and are very active. And then those dogs can be absolutely phenomenally great dogs because they're getting all their energy out. But when you have a Dalmatian or a Weimaraner who isn't running its 2 to 18 miles
right, exactly.
a day,
Don't.
they're
That's
just
too much for them.
In your house.
Yeah. All right. What else should we discuss? Just we'll open up the phone lines. But what do you want to touch on?
This.
What do you want to hit on?
Here's what I'm on a roll about this.
I think you might have something.
Are you ready?
Yeah, please.
Okay, people. If you get your dog microchipped, which I highly suggest in cats.
Okay.
Register the darn thing. Register it.
Meaning people get it microchipped and forget to register it?
Or they register it with just their name. Just their name. Hello. What do you expect?
Well,
we had a dog brought into the clinic.
Okay.
A good Samaritan found it in the middle of Braley Parkway, risked life and limb to rescue this dog out of the middle of Braley Parkway, brought it to our clinic, and it has a microchip. Woohoo! We're all excited. Yes, this is going to be a happy ending. And you know what? All we get is a name.
That's it. So you can't.
And we get an old address that actually turns out to be an extended stay hotel in Franklin, Tennessee. We call the microchip company. Now, this is 4 staff members at my clinic, plus me, all on a wild goose chase trying to do this to the detriment of other people hanging out because we really want to get this little dog home. And we find where the microchip was implanted in 2007.
Okay.
So one of my staff members is combing Facebook with a name, and now we find this person. We see pictures of this little dog, but her wall is not open for other people to post on. So, I mean, it was an all-day event trying to, and what if they went somewhere else and they were like, oh yeah, sorry, there's no phone number associated with this microchip. I mean, all we got was a name and an old address. And so what if we hadn't cared enough to try to find this person?
Right. Right.
You wouldn't have gotten your dog back.
No.
Right. So if you have a microchip, register the darn thing.
And I think we have our dogs microchipped. And I know one of the first things we did when we came back afterwards was my wife, you go online, I think, to do that, don't you? Or do you do it at the clinic? Because I think she went on
different companies do different things.
And we registered with the name, address, phone number, everything that you possibly need in case the dog turns up, right?
At our clinic, because there's such a high rate of non-compliance in registering these microchips, our clinic registers them for you. No microchip leaves in an animal in our clinic
without you saying, give us the info. Yeah.
We say, here, fill this out. We're going to register it for you, so it's done. Now, when you move, you got to change your address.
Yeah.
If you get it now, these days, you pretty much are going to have your same phone number, your cell number, for as long as you want it. So that's not as big a thing. But, if you get a new phone number, you've got to remember to do these things because it's not worth your $30 to put a microchip in a dog if you're not going to register it.
Yeah, okay. It really seems like it's hard for me to imagine this happening like this. You're paying to do this.
Yes.
You get it. It's like you're just going halfway and not finishing the job. And I mean, why would you? If you're thoughtful enough to think, let's do this, and not. In fact, I have a friend who has got one now that was just a dog they adopted that has one. They have to go about changing.
Right.
You can do that too, right?
You can do that. I think what happens is people get home with their dog and they have their paperwork and they have and they set it down and they go to do other stuff and then and then it becomes that pile on your kitchen counter and the pile gets moved to here and then it just gets thrown away or forgotten about or I need to do that. Yeah. Just do it. If you're gonna spend the money on the microchip,
how much is it?
It depends. There's our clinics, I think $39. Some are $40. Some are they're usually Metro Animal Control or the Humane Society one will have microchipping drives, and they'll be $15 like twice a year.
Yeah.
It's not exorbitant.
How do you feel, though? I mean, the larger picture here about microchipping these free will animals and their civil liberties. Because I don't think I'd like to be.
Would you just said your pets are microchipped.
Would you like to be microchipped?
I'm not getting microchipped.
Would you like?
But I also can recognize a street sign and tell people my name and where I live.
I'm just pulling your leg. I just okay. But what's that? It was funny because as you went to that, I thought about wouldn't that be handy to microchip your kid?
Oh yeah, there's been lots of talk about that.
Now I wonder if you could do that. I mean, you could do it legally as long as it doesn't hurt the kid. I mean, think about some of these abductions. My goodness.
Well, the thing about these microchips is they're not GPS tracking microchips.
Oh, they're not.
It's not like you can pick up your phone and be like, "Where's my dog?"
That's right. That's a good point. It's
they
not
make
same.
collars and stuff.
It's when the stray's found, and then they can identify them.
Microchips depend on somebody finding the animal,
Thank you. That's
taking it somewhere to be scanned.
That's right. It's an important distinction. Listen, we'll take a break on that note. When we come back, we've got some calls. Lines open 737-7587. If you want to jump in, questions about your cats, your dogs, your iguanas, whatever you'd like. Let's hear Christmas music. Rick's got it going. Listen, we'll be back with more right after this. Stay with us.